So it's an unprecedented new ad campaign putting marriage equality front and center, and it names names. The $1 million buy from Freedom and the Human Rights Campaign features full-page ads in major newspapers, along with a TV spot using the voices of prominent Republicans and Democrats expressing support for marriage equality.
They ought to have, I think, the same sort of rights that everyone has.
Allowing them to live together with the protection of law, it seems to me, is the way we should be moving in this country.
Freedom means freedom for everyone.
Our journey is not complete until our gay brothers and sisters are treated like anyone else under the law.
So the joint campaign under the Respect for Marriage Coalition comes as two major cases loom before the Supreme Court, and several new states consider legalizing marriage equality. Evan Wolfson is executive director of Freedom to Marry and a co-chair of the Respect for Marriage Coalition. Evan, it's great to have you here. And so we know this is serious cash we're talking about. These are major voices that you're using in unison with Laura Bush, Dick Cheney, Colin Powell, the president. Talk about the strategy behind using that combination of voices, and why do you think it's going to be successful?
Well, America's been on a real journey over the last several years. People have talked about who gay people are. They've talked about why marriage matters, and a majority of the American people now support the freedom to marry. And that majority is increasingly a bipartisan majority. We're seeing Republicans as well as Democrats, conservatives as well as liberals, business leaders as well as labor leaders, all now supporting the freedom to marry. And we wanted to underscore for the country how that momentum really says to decision makers, whether it's legislators, judges, or justices, that the time is now to get America where it needs to be. It's time to end this discrimination.
Certainly you feel encouraged, the wind being at your back after the ballot measures in November. All four of them went in your favor for equality. Now we talk about Rhode Island, Delaware, Illinois, and Minnesota among the next states to take up marriage equality. Meanwhile, next month we've got the Supreme Court taking up DOMA and Prop 8. Beyond using the sound bites of those names, are they aware of the context and the way that their voices are being used? Do they support this campaign? We're talking about Laura Bush, Dick Cheney, Colin Powell, the president.
These are all thoughtful leaders from the president right through. They choose their words carefully. They take stands carefully, and they weren't all there before, but they all have spoken out in support of the freedom to marry, and their voices matter. Because they
so
echo
did they
the
green
voices.
light being used in the campaign? Did they say, have you reached out to them saying we're using your voices in this fashion?
They're already on the record. They're there in public, and we want the country to hear it and see it and embrace this leadership.
All right, so the Washington Post's Ruth Marcus calls this Obama's marriage equality test in a new op-ed that she penned, saying that a president who speaks so eloquently at his inaugural cannot allow his administration to remain silent before the court where words are translated into reality. So should minority rights be put up to statewide vote for majorities to vote on marriage equality? The president basically said in his interview with Robin Roberts over the summer that that's the way he supports this, that states can figure this out.
Well, no, what the president said correctly is that the states are wrestling with this, and we're seeing progress in the states, whether it be New York or Iowa or the 4 states last November. But at the same time, we all have a constitution that guarantees us all protections and responsibilities and rights under the law. If every time somebody wanted their freedom to be respected, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to marry, they had to go to put it up to a vote, it wouldn't be a right, it would be a vote. That's not the way America is supposed to work.
You know, Republicans have certainly realized to win elections in the future that they need to court Latinos, they need to court women, they need to court the LGBT vote to be competitive. A new Daily Beast article states that homophobia is handicapping the GOP in this new national poll showing that 75% of voters support marriage equality. So how can the LGBT community use that as leverage in getting the GOP to recognize their rights? Basically, the GOP can use the LGBT community, the LGBT community can use the GOP in its corner.
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand what you're saying, although I don't really think of it as using. I think of it as more as both parties need to be where the voters are and where America should be. And the great thing is we're hearing leadership now within the Republican Party as within the Democratic Party saying this is not a party question. This is about fundamental protections and respect for all Americans.
Well, it would be nice to not think that sides weren't using each other, but since we are talking about politics, they're going to be using each other. Evan Wolfson from Freedom to Marry, Executive Director. Great to see you. Thanks so much for your time today. So after a restaurant bursts into flames